welcome to Bumble Stitches podcast, episode 41. My name's Nicola and you can find me on Ravelry as Bumble Stitches. You can also find me on Instagram as Bumble Stitches. And I should have mentioned we do have a podcast group in the groups tab on Ravelry for the podcast where all the giveaways and knit-alongs and things like that happen. So you'll be very welcome to come and join us there. This is actually the third time I've started this podcast today. First attempt, there was a knock at the door, which was an Amazon delivery. Nothing very exciting or crafty, I'm afraid. Just a really boring organisation thing for the under the sink cupboard. I'm that kind of... Anyway, I won't bore you with tales of my under sink storage. And then I attempted to start the podcast again and it was all a bit rubbish. So I'm just going for it this time. So we'll just have to see what happens. Did I mention we've got a Ravelry group? I think I did. I've got a bit of a headache today and it's making me feel a bit rubbish, and I wasn't going to podcast, but it has been a long time since I did, and things seem to happen every weekend that make me think, oh, I won't podcast this weekend, and I don't get a chance during the week, and then I feel guilty for not podcasting and I've got loads to share with you. So yeah, I'm feeling a bit rambly today and a bit very not organised, but hopefully it won't be too bad and you'll all bear with me. So if you're a new viewer, please bear with me, and if you're a returning viewer, you probably know me by now, and thank you for coming back time and time again. And thanks also for all of you that leave comments on previous videos. It's really, really appreciated. I don't always get a chance to reply, but I do read them all. And it's really nice to know that you're enjoying the episode. So thank you all for that. Okay, well, this episode I do have quite a few things to share. I've got a couple of finished objects, which is really exciting. I've got some works in progress. I've got a giveaway winner to announce. There was a giveaway in the last episode for Ellie of Craft House Magic has donated a copy of her Country Garden collection of patterns, so I'll be announcing that a bit later. Quick update on the knit along, some acquisitions, some knitting plans, and whatever else happens to happen in between those segments. So yes, there's been quite a lot happening since I saw you last. I've had, what have I been up to? I had a lovely visit to see Kelly and Nick at Lay Family Yarns at their new shop and premises in Shropshire. That was a really lovely afternoon that I spent with them. I've been to Bath for a few days with my mum. We had a nice sort of mini break in Bath, which was lovely. And I've been to Germany for work and been really, really busy. So there has been some knitting though, so it's all good. Okay, as always, I've got my notes down here, so if you see me looking down, and there'll be quite a lot of me looking a bit strange. I mentioned, I might have mentioned on the last podcast or on Instagram, I've got these new glasses, as you can see, and they are varifocals, and I'm not really getting on that well with them. I'm trying to persevere. So if I do sort of a lot of this and up and down, you'll know exactly, those of you that have got varifocals will know. And I do have to go and pick up another pair of glasses on Monday, just a single vision pair for using on the computer and on my laptop, because these just aren't great in that sort of mid-range of vision. So I was a bit disappointed really, because these were very expensive for a pair of glasses, and to have to buy another pair was a little bit, yeah, I wasn't best pleased, but I need to be able to see stuff, right? So there we are. So if I look a little bit like a rabbit caught in the headlights, it's probably because I can't actually see the screen and I'm struggling a little bit. So anyway, that's enough of me moaning. Shall we get on with the podcast? I'm going to start with a couple of finished objects. So this has been a long time in the making. This is my Tenure, which I finally finished. It's a pattern by Caitlin Hunter of Boyle and Knitworks, and it was one of the projects that I was knitting as part of the knit along that we currently have going on in the podcast group, which is the Boyland along. And now that it's finished, I love it. I have worn it. Hopefully it's not too sort of pulled out of shape. I tried to keep it quite nice so I could show you all, but I love it, and I'm really pleased with the way it blocked out. Obviously the border or the hemline lacework is the star of the show, and I have shown this sort of as a whip on previous episodes, so you would have seen it then. But really thrilled with the way this one turned out. So this is knitted in yarn by Giddy Aunt Yarns, and it's the Ruby Slippers colourway on their platinum sock base. I don't know if that's coming out clearly. See, I'm doing all this and peeping, trying to see what I'm doing. And I had, out of 3 skeins, it's a fingering weight yarn, out of 3 skeins I had obviously the completed garment, and this much left. There's probably, I'm guessing, about 70 to 80 grams left there, so enough to pop into another project for sure. And what I did with this Tenure is, because it's the drop sleeve design, I knew that if I knit a raglan, I tend not to have too many problems if I knit the size that fits sort of the bust area and the body area. The sleeves tend to be okay, but because this is a drop sleeve design, and the sleeves, people had noted that sometimes the sleeves could be a bit of a snug fit, so I modified the pattern to allow for the next size up on the sleeves, and that was quite simply done by when I stopped knitting in the round, because you knit this design in the round up until the you split for the armholes, and then you knit back and forth on the front and backs, and I stopped at the point which would be for the larger size sleeve. And then when I came to knitting the sleeves, I just knitted that sleeve the larger size, so picked up the required amount of stitches for that size, and it worked out really well. So I was pleased with the fit, love the colour. It's blowing out a little bit on screen, and I didn't actually alternate. I didn't alternate skeins on this. Sorry, the lighting's a bit all over the place. Yeah, I didn't alternate skeins. I was a little bit blasé and didn't do that, but it's actually I got away with it this time, so just trying to find where it's not going to blow out. But you can see it's a really rich ruby red, and I'm really pleased with it. I think I'm still going to get quite a lot of wear out of it, even though the weather's you know, we're into autumn now, because I do run quite hot anyway, so a short sleeve sweater is actually quite a good thing for me. So that is my completed Tenure, and I'm very pleased to have it done, because it did seem to take forever. There's quite a lot of round and round stock in it once you finish the lace section here. And at one point I did wonder if this would ever be even wearable, because by the time I finished the lace, knitted up the body and stopped here to separate for the where the armholes were, when I checked my stitch count, which I probably should have checked down here, but I didn't, I just carried on knitting, and I had about 50 stitches less than I should have done. And I thought, there is no way I'm going to be ripping this back and taking all this work out. So I just sort of fudged it a bit, increased a few where I could. So there is actually an increased row across here that I added in, which fortunately doesn't really look too obvious. Well, I can't see it anyway. And it kind of worked out. So it's really fudged. There's quite a lot of mistakes in this, but sometimes if you think, some mistakes you really have to rip out, don't you, and start again. But if you think you're going to get away with it, then I think we're all, well, do you do that as well? I mean, I tend to think if I've done an awful lot of work, then I'm not going to start ripping it out. And it's done, so I'm really pleased with that finished object. So let's pop Tenure over here. What I've done today is I've got everything out that I want to talk to you about, and it's all behind me here on the bed. So there's quite a lot to go through, but I'm trying not to end up with a big mountain of stuff in front of me, which I usually do, and then get in a right old state. So finished object number 2 is my Fabulosity shawl, and I showed you this on the last podcast. This is a design by Casa Pinka, and it is a very big shawl. and there were a lot. I'm holding this up, I don't know how much of it you can see. So you can see it's a crescent shaped shawl, and it's one of these where you have got quite a lot. I mean, it's way, I think even from halfway to the end, from the middle point to the end, is not far off my wingspan, and then you've got all of that again. So it's quite a big shawl, and by the time I got to doing this lace section here at the end, I was so over the amount of stitches that were on my needles. It was just getting a bit ridiculous. So what I liked about this shawl though, apart from well, I really enjoyed knitting it, apart from those long rows at the end. That did get a little bit tedious, but I like the fact that each section is a different stitch pattern, so you can see all the different, these bobbles were a little bit of a pain to knit, but nothing compared to the little cabin, which I shall show you in my whips. There's some short row sections as well, and some more sort of slip stitched section here, a little sort of popcorny type stitch section there, and then another short row section before you sort of embark on the lace at the end, which blocked out really well. I'm really pleased with it. It is bright, but it is how I wanted it to be. It's pretty much as exact as I could get without buying the yarn that was used in one of the original samples. It's as close as I could get to that without buying the exact same yarn. So let me show you the yarns that I used, because I've got some leftovers. Not too many, thank goodness, because I've got so many leftovers. So this section at the start from the top. So the grey at the top, I've got quite a bit left, but grey's always useful, so that's okay. And that was First Frost by Stranded Dye Works. These are all 4-ply fingering weight yarns. The next section, which is the variegated section, is, I've only got a tiny bit of that one left over, just a little nugget there, and that is from Berenvola, and it was actually part of a kit I bought for a So Faded sweater. It was one that I didn't use, so that was from that. So it was nice to get that used up. The beautiful aqua colour here is from Dusty Dimples, and I've got about 50 grams left over of that one. Yeah, so that's aqua from Dusty Dimples. That's actually a an MCM, merino cashmere nylon. The other two I showed you were just superwash merino and nylon. And then finally this super bright hot pink, which I love, almost neon. It really is super bright. I don't know, yeah, you can see how bright that is, and I really love it. That is by Giddy Aunt Yarns again, same as the yarn from my Tenure, and that's in the colourway Wham. And again, I've got enough of this to use as an accent in on something, which I'm really pleased about because I love this colour. And this is actually on their Sock Boo base. It's 80% superwash merino and 20% bamboo. So there's quite a combination of yarns in this. So the two just merino superwash, and then obviously the MCN and the merino bamboo blend. But they all work really well, and I chose them based on the colours, the fact that the colours work together and they're all the same weight. And I think in a shawl it doesn't matter too much if you mix your fibres. I don't think I'd be quite so keen to do that on a garment in case they acted sort of different ways on the fit. But I think on the shawl it's not too bad to mix your fibres. And I really love this. I haven't worn it yet. It's been finished for a couple of weeks. It's been patiently waiting to be shown on the podcast before I wear it. But I think it's going to be really a nice bright splash of colour in the winter months. And it's something that I've wanted to knit for a really long time. It's been in my Ravelry queue for ages. So I think to finally have got this one off nearly said the noodles, off the needles. I'm really pleased about. So that is my second FO, which is the very large Fabulosity shawl by Casa Pinker. I'm going to fold it up neatly. I think this is going to be one that comes out this week, if the weather is chilly enough. Unfortunately, I think I am at that age where it doesn't take much for me to get really, really hot. So, but it's definitely going to be getting a wear very, very soon. So that is all my finished objects. I'm just going to move these out of the way so that we can stay as organised as possible. And I'm going to move on to my works in progress now. I do have a couple of sock projects. I'm not going to share them this episode because I haven't done anything on them. My sock mojo has gone out the window. I did a tiny bit of knitting on a vanilla sock on the train, just because it's easy to carry around. And other than that, no sock mojo whatsoever, which I need to get back because I would like to get some done for some gift knitting for Christmas, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So I've got 3 works in progress that I would like to share with you, and I'm going to start with my little cabin sweater. And if you are a long-term viewer of the podcast, you would have remembered seeing this before. I'll show you the pattern. It's Little Cabin. It's another pattern by Caitlin Hunter, and I'm also knitting this as part of the knit along. And I had knit this, got to, what stage did I got to before? I think before I'd knit the body, because it's knit from the bottom up, and you knit the body and the 2 sleeves, and then they're all joined together, and you knit the yoke upwards from that point. So there's no seaming, but it is knit in sort of in sections, so if that makes sense. And I'd knit the body and decided that it was a little bit small, and I was worried about how much yarn I had available. But I did a bit of sort of calculated as well as I could, and decided that I could get away with knitting the next size up. So I frogged the whole body, and bearing in mind this is all a bubble design, it was a little bit heartbreaking to do that. I'm just going to try and get all the sections out so that I can show you. And it's all living in this really cute little basket that I picked up in the supermarket of all places. It's one of these little sort of fold down baskets, but it's great because this is quite a bulky project. So let me show you where we are at. So I have re-knit the body, taken this out of hibernation, and I've re-knit the body. There's a little bit of waste yarn there, so you can see that the colour isn't showing very true on the camera, but it's definitely it's like a sort of a caramelly sort of colour. It's coming out, it's got a bit of a green cast on it on the screen. It's just the light is dreadful in here today, but you can see the little cabin design along the hem with the little bubbles on the top. So these are all the little cabins, and all those bubbles, just bubbles forever. And it always seemed to be that the few rows of plain stockinette in between went by in an absolute flash, and then it was a bubble row again. So I'm really pleased to have got that re-knitted. So we have a body, and we have one completed sleeve. You can see all the bubble work still. So I shall very jauntily show you what the sleeve looks like. So that's the sleeve. It's going to be really super warm, this one, and the texture is lovely. The yarn I'm using is this Debbie Bliss Donegal Luxury Tweed Aran. I don't know what the colourway is. I think it was called Meadow when I bought it, but it just says a colourway which is 360036. But it's not superwash, it's just 100% wool, and that's meant I could actually spit splice all the, when I've joined in new balls of yarn, so there aren't any ends to sew in other than sort of the beginning and end of the section. So that is very welcome at the end of the project. And I have made a start on the second sleeve. So that's coming along nicely too. And I've got my really cute little sheep. Can you see him? Little sheep stitch progress keeper that I got from Bird Street UK from Claire. So he's living on there, marking my progress. I'm using my higher interchangeables and just knitting this on magic loop. So it's actually, the sleeve is actually grown quite quickly. As I said, it is Aran weight, so that does mean it's, at least it grows quickly. If I had to do those bobbles on a finer gauge, on a finer yarn, I think it would just drive you insane. So the plan is to get this sleeve finished and then join all the pieces together. And I think there's a horrendous row when you first join where every other stitch is one of these bobbles, and that is going to be something that I'll need to psych myself up for, I think. And then that will be finally finished. And the yoke, I don't know if you can see from the pattern, it's all done in garter stitch. So once you've joined, that's the heavily bobbled row there that you can just about make out, and then it's garter stitch and up to the neckband. So I'm really looking forward to having this as a really nice cozy sweater for the winter time. And it's nice to get it out of hibernation again, because having already knit the body once, I do feel like I've been knitting this sweater for almost an eternity. It's like a recurring dream where you just find yourself knitting on the same thing. But once that sleeve is finished, then there's the big bobble row, but after that it's just garter, so that should fly by, hopefully. That's the plan. Yeah, and it's fitted all in this basket really nicely. I've got a couple of spare balls of yarn, and I've kept in here as well this gorgeous Liberty lavender bag, which is quite sizable, as you can see. It's sort of as big as my hand. And I bought this from Kate at the last Homely House East of the Sea, I think is the name of her YouTube. And it's fabulous. It's really intense lavender, and every time I pull the project out of the basket, it just smells gorgeous. So really, really looking forward to getting that one off the needles, and hopefully next podcast I'll be able to show you that as a finished object. So I'm going to pop all that back in there. And this one doesn't travel anywhere. This one just stays at home because it is a big basket full of, I mean, I could work on the sleeve, I guess, but it's just quite nice to pick up and have this one at the side of the sofa. Although we do have a new addition to the family. My daughter Lulu has just got a new puppy, and he's been coming round quite a lot to visit, and he's very, very interested in my knitting. And this basket in particular, I don't know if it's the smell of the raffia, or of the basket itself, or the wool, or a combination of both, or even the lavender, who knows, but he's obsessed with it, and at every opportunity would dive headlong in and try and have a nibble. So yes, I have to keep an eye on that. So the next work in progress that I'm working on is living in this project bag. I think I shared this with you on the last episode. This is a bag I made out of some out of a treasure box full of vintage French fabric scraps and trims, little bits of lace and little pearl buttons and so on. And it's quite sizable. You can see it's quite a big bag, and it is full. And living in here is the Love Note. And I know lots and lots of people are knitting this at the moment. It's all over Ravelry and Instagram. And I don't think I'd even started this last podcast episode. So I will share this with you now. I'm going to show you the pattern as well. It's by Tin Can Knits. And like all their patterns, it comes in a vast range of sizes. So right from babies and children up to adult sizes. So that's the pattern. And I'm very nearly finished this. It's all done apart from a bit of work that I've got left to do on this sleeve. So this sleeve is complete. All the lace. So you start at the top. It's got this beautiful, I'm going to try and put my hand in so you can see. It's got this gorgeous yoke lace panel, which is really fun to knit. And you start off with a provisional cast on at the neck here, and then you go back and put the rib on later. So I've done all of that. There's lots of options in the pattern. You can knit it with a high-low hem. You can put short row shaping in the back to make it high-low, and I have gone for that option. So you can see here I have got a high-low hem on it. I've gone for the cropped version, and I'm doing 3/4 length sleeves, so I think it will be really nice as a layering piece. So it's coming on really, really well. I've only got this. I've got, how much of a sleeve have we got to do? Let's do a little sleeve comparison. So you can see I've just got this to do and it will be done. I've had to knit this on some quite old needles, actually, needles that I bought when I first started knitting again seriously. I bought this set of Knit Pro Symphonies, and these are the sort of the multicoloured wood, and this is an interchangeable set, but this is knit on 6mm needles, and I didn't have any in either my Chiagu or higher interchangeable sets. I didn't have the large sizes, so I had to go for these. And that took a little bit of getting used to. It did make it sort of quite hard on my hands, I found. But at least with carrying 2 strands, because this is worked with a strand of mohair and a strand of sock weight yarn. They're a bit more sticky, aren't they, wooden needles, and it just made it a bit easier to manage. And I'm doing the sleeve on Magic Loop. So the yarns I'm using a Malabrigo. I've got a spare skein here. I'm using a Malabrigo sock in the Sandbank colourway, which is gorgeous tonal, sort of beigey, sandy, neutral colour. And I'm holding it with just this Drops Kid Silk Mohair, and this is colour number 01, so just sort of like an ivory colour, but it's giving a really nice fabric and a really nice colour. It's just sort of slightly mulled, super soft, super squishy, really, really light. And so far this would be the 3rd skein of the Sandbank, but as you can see I've only got a little bit to go, and I do have in here, I've still got this much, so I may even, there's probably about 20 grams there, I may even have enough to finish the sleeve. But I bought this as well because I'm also using this colour on my my next whip that I'm going to show you. So 3 skeins of this should actually be enough for the project I'm going to show you next, which is a shawl and this sweater. So that's not bad going. So this is Love Note by Tin Can Knits, and again hopefully I'll have that to show you as a finished object on the next episode. And I know previously I have said that I'm trying to stick to 1 sweater, 1 shawl and 1 small project like socks or hat, but it's gone out of the window a little bit, mainly because I didn't want to leave the little cabin in hibernation for too long, because I thought with all those bobbles and the fact that I'd already frogged it once, I thought it was in danger of becoming one of those projects that you never ever go back to and finish, and I didn't want that to happen. So I thought I'd make the exception and have 2 sweaters on the go at the moment. But there will be no more sweater cast-ons until at least one of these is off the needles, and I think the Love Note will be off the needles first. So I should put those all to one side. I'm very pleased at how tidy I'm keeping this episode. Put my pattern back in there. And I do love anything that I knit that's held with mohair. I just think it's got such a lovely texture and very fluffy, which is a bit like my hair today, which I didn't straighten, and I know it's just looking a bit crazy. So, but there you go. I should just be fluffy all over. Let's have a look at the shawl project I'm working on. It's living in my fringe field bag, which is really handy for some of my favourite pins at the moment. but they do get caught on the inside, I must admit. I love the way they look, but it does drive me absolutely bonkers when I pull the yarn from the bag and it gets caught around the pins. But there you go. Okay, so I don't often knit a pattern twice, but I made the exception for this, and I'm trying to find the front page to show you. And it's the Marley Shawl by Andrea Mowry, which is a brioche shawl, 2-colour brioche. And I knit one of these about a year ago, and it was my first proper brioche project, and I loved it. And it's probably about a couple of weeks ago, I really had a hankering to knit brioche, and thought, oh, what should I do? And I thought, well, Marley is a shawl. The Marley that I've got already is a shawl that I absolutely love. I wear it lots. It's one of my favourites. So I thought, well, why not do another one in slightly different colourways? So that's what I did. And let's get this out carefully. Whilst I can knit brioche, I really wouldn't want to be in a position of having to correct any major mistakes in brioche, because I think that would be beyond my skill set at the moment. So let's put it this way so you can see. So this is Marley 2, and I've made quite a bit of progress, and I've got my little Happy Birthday Harry progress keeper on there, which I think is from Homespun House. So you can see that's the front side, and then the reverse here. So my other Marley was pale grey on the front and a multicoloured, it was actually lots of minis joined into a magic ball for the reverse side. But for this one I'm using, so this is the other bit of sandbank, so that's the same as this, and then I'm using this beast of a cake, so you can see the difference in size between these two. And this is a skein of yarn that I've had in my stash for absolutely ages, and it was given to me in a swap probably about, well, at least 2 years ago, maybe a little bit more. And I think it was, I can't even remember who organised the swap, but I swapped with a lady in Texas in the US, and she sent me this gorgeous skein of yarn, which is from Miss Babs. And I have hoarded it for the longest time, not knowing what it would want to be, and then decided that it would work really well in this Marley. It's difficult to tell because there's quite a lot going on in this skein, but there are some sections which are very similar to this, so I thought they'd work really well together. And this is a, what is it called? It's their Kira 4-ply fingering yarn. It's 100% superwash merino, and it is a beast. There are 560 yards on this skein, and that's 8.3 ounces. So it's probably, I'm guessing, what's that? Is that about twice as many as you would get on a normal? It was a huge beast of a skein. So how many is on this one? Oh right, so this Malabrigo is 440 yards, and this one was 560. So it's probably like a skein, excuse me, and a half. And the colourway is Drunken Watermelon. So I don't know if Babette is the type of yarn or if Kira is the type of yarn. I'm not sure. But I think it's nice that it's finally decided what it wanted to be, and I think brioche is perfect for this, and it's super bouncy. It's a little bit of a heavier weight than the Malabrigo, but hopefully it is working. Well, I like the way it's working in the brioche, and I just love the way you get the both sides showing on the front, and then the back side obviously is mostly just showing the yarn that is on the back of the work. So this has really been an enjoyable knit for me, because as you saw from the previous couple of projects that I am on Sleeve Island on both, and to be able to pick this up, and I just really enjoy the rhythm of knitting brioche. This is such a great pattern. So I think I've probably said this before when I knitted Marley, but if you want to have a go at brioche, I would really recommend this pattern, because Andrea Mowry has written it in such a way that it's really easy to understand, really easy to follow. And I think she's done a couple of small accompanying videos on YouTube, little tutorials to get you started as well. And it really isn't complicated once you get into the rhythm of it. If you can knit and you can purl and you can yarn over, then you can brioche. And I absolutely stand by that, because and once you get into the rhythm of it, you just do it without thinking. It's super simple, and I think the effect is just really fun. So that's Marley. So that snuck onto the needles, almost took me by surprise. I just really had to do some brioche. And I know I'll wear it, I know I'll use it. There's so many of my projects, sort of shawl projects that I've knitted, and I just don't wear them, and it's such a shame. I really enjoy, I mean, I know we talk about people being a process knitter or a project knitter, and for me it varies depending on what I'm knitting. Some things will literally be about the process of knitting it, and some things will be projects, and some are kind of both really. And I think this Marley shawl is definitely one of those. I love the process of knitting it, and I know, having already knit one, that it's a great item to wear. So I don't know if it'll even be the last. Maybe I'll do another one. Maybe they'd be nice as a gift. I just think it's fab. So that's all the those are all the whips for today. But yeah, I have tried to wear a couple of make a conscious effort to wear a couple of my shawls since the weather's turned a bit cooler. Just worn a couple sort of like for work, if they've gone with various outfits that I've been wearing. And at least if I wear them a couple of times, it's not as bad, because most of them just end up getting shown on the podcast, folded up nicely and put in the cupboard, and it's a bit wasteful, isn't it? Anyway, shall we have a quick update on the knit along? So as I mentioned when I was talking about my works in progress, we do have the Boil and Along cowl, which is running in the Ravelry group at the moment. It was originally going to end at the end of September, and I decided to extend it till the end of October, just to give people a chance to finish off, because lots of people are knitting sweaters, and I thought it'd be nice just to have a little bit of extra time and not be rushed to complete in time. So it's already the 6th of October today, so there's still a few weeks to go, and I will close the threads on the 1st of November, or thereabouts, as soon as I remember really. And there are prizes for both the finished objects thread and for the chatter thread, so do keep chatting, keep popping your photographs of your finished objects in the thread as well. And there are just some fabulous things that have been knitted. There's sweaters, and there's a cowl, there's a couple of Coburg hats, I think. So just some stunning work that's been going on in that finished objects thread, so do have a look. And if you want to see, I shared all the prizes that we have on the last episode, that was episode 40. So if you missed them and you wanted to have a look at the prizes that are available, have a look back at episode 40 and you'll see them all there. But for those of you that are participating in the cowl, I really appreciate that you're doing that, and I think you've just done some fantastic work. So keep going, and be really cool to draw some prize winners at the end of the cowl. Right, talking about prizes and such like, last episode I told you about a little giveaway that was made possible by Ellie of Craft House Magic, and she got in touch with me when she launched her country garden collection of patterns and said, would I like to do a giveaway on the podcast? And I said, yes, that would be brilliant, Ellie, and it was very generous of her. So I set a thread up in the podcast group on Ravelry and asked you, I think I asked you to tell me your favourite garden flower, and quite a few of you entered, and I have a winner for you today. I'm just going to show you the pattern. Just bear with me while I spin around and collect that. So as I said, it's a collection. So you have got the Country Garden cowl, which is the first one, and then there are the fingerless mitts, and finally the beret, and they're all knit in DK, so they'll be super snugly to knit for the winter, and also reasonably quick to knit, so they'd be great for gift knits as well. So I asked, I'm not going to say her name because she's on the desk and she will start joining in with the podcast, but I asked the automated assistant from Amazon, you know who I'm talking about, to choose a number, and she did. There were 20 posts, first of which was mine, so between 2 and 20, and she chose post number 9, which is Woolly Kim. So congratulations, Kim. Get in touch with me and let me know, but I will let Ellie know anyway, because it's a pattern prize, so I'll let Ellie know your Ravelry name, which is Woolly Kim, and get her to send the collection to you. So congratulations, and thank you to everyone that entered, and thank you, Ellie, that was really kind and generous, and I have a copy too, so thank you for that. So I shall be certainly, I've definitely got my eye on the fingerless mitts, because I know someone that might need some fingerless mitts for dog walking in the winter. Okay, let's put that to one side as well. I should have brought a drink up with me, I didn't do that, I just was not organised today. Okay, so I just mentioned gift knitting briefly, and I have been thinking about the C word and things that I might like to knit for people, because I always leave it too late. Last year, I think on about something like the second week of December, I decided that I needed to knit socks for every member of the family that was going to be here on Christmas Day, and that was 5 of us that we all needed. I've got a little visitor, so just hang on one second. This is totally unexpected. And this is, hello sunshine, this is Milo, Lulu's puppy, and I didn't even know he had arrived. Hello sweetheart, he's a bit of a nibbler.
We're babysitting him for a bit, they've got to go and do something.
We're just babysitting him apparently for a bit, so I might have to stop this podcast here and join you back a little bit later. Give me the Milo.
Oh, he's got your hair. Bye.
Well, that was a little bit unexpected. We were due to see Lulu and Milo later on today, but apparently someone has been a very naughty boy and managed to get upstairs and do something very, very naughty with his bottom upstairs and is in disgrace. So Lulu's had to go out and buy a baby stair gate to stop him getting upstairs. And now Justin's babysitting for Milo for a couple of hours while she goes out to do that. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed seeing him. He's very, very lively and he loves coming to visit us, so he does get quite excitable. So I will, I'll be seeing quite a bit more of him when I finish podcasting today. So I hope you enjoyed seeing him. Okay, where was I? I was mentioning about some plans for gift knitting. And I thought if I get started sooner rather than later, it won't be the big mad rush when it comes to December and all the other things that you have to be doing. So Lulu had mentioned, I've had this yarn in my stash for a while and she's been admiring it. It's yarn by Mrs. Moon and it's their Plump DK. I've shown this on the podcast, I think, when I bought it. This is Peppermint Cream. This one is it Earl Grey or is it Darjeeling? I know it's a tea. This is Earl Grey, and this one is Fondant Fancy. So I bought these 3 skeins. It's, as I said, a DK weight, and I bought it and it came with a pattern, which is the Alpine hat. So you can see it in the contrast version a bit clearer there, but I think it will work quite well with these 3 colours. And I bought a pom-pom at the same time, which is one of these lovely Toft alpaca pom-poms, and it's one with a press stud, so really, really easy to take off when you need to wash the hat. So I thought these 3 with the pom-pom will be fabulous for her, make a really nice gift, and and be handy again when she's out walking the little terror. It should be nice and cozy in that hat. So that's one of the gift knitting things that I'm going to get working on. And I plan to just work these in addition to my my other whips that I'm doing sort of like for myself, and just keep them all in a big basket of gift knitting and just pick bits up and put projects up and down, you know, when I feel like it. So that's one plan. The other thing I want to do for Lulu as well is some basic DK mitts. This is a free pattern I got on Ravelry, and it's by Shibot Garn. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, probably not. This is just a basic fingerless mitts, which I thought would be nice for when she's out walking Milo. And I might knit myself a pair of these because they'd be great for driving as well. So I'll probably knit one pair of these and one pair of Ellie's Country Garden fingerless mitts as well, just for a bit of variety. And I've got some skeins of DK in my stash, so I shall have a little look and see what to do them in. I'll try and make Lulu's match her hat if possible. And if I haven't got anything to match, I might get some more of the Mrs. Moon yarn. And I'm going somewhere later this week that I think they're going to be at. So yeah, so that's something else in the pipeline for gift knitting. And the other gift knitting I'm going to be doing, there will be some socks as well, I'm sure. Justin's dad always likes a pair of socks. And incidentally, that was Justin that popped in with Milo. I don't think he's been on the podcast before, so you've seen him as well now. This is a bit scrunkled because I've had it in a bag, but this is the Wondrous Dishcloth pattern by Jules, lovely Jules of So Sweet Violet. And I've seen this obviously on her podcast and on her Instagram, and lots of people are knitting it, and I'm like, oh, I couldn't do all that lovely knitting and that lovely yarn and then be wiping my sink round with it. I just couldn't. To me, that just seems, if you can do that, that's great, but I just feel like it's a lot of work, a lot of hours of knitting to then be wiping around your sink and your worktops. But I did think it would be a really nice idea for a washcloth. So I bought some yarns from Wool Warehouse. They always come in these little organza bags. If you're in the UK, you probably know about Wool Warehouse. But if you don't know about them, they're really, really good for all sort of, you know, commercial yarns. I've got the Malabrigo sock from there that I use in my Marley and my Love Note. I also got the Drops mohair that I'm using in my Love Note from there. And these Scapias, is it pronounced Scapias? Katona, which is a cotton yarn. So it's 100% mercerised cotton. I'm not sure what the mercerising technique involves, but it makes the cotton have a bit of a sheen to it. It makes it a little bit more silky. And I've got a few different colours. I've got a couple of I can't remember what this one was called. It's just got numbers on. This is colour 130, and it's just like a creamy sort of natural. So I'm going to have a little practice with one of those first. And then I thought I would do, because these will be for gifts, so I thought I could do a set of 3 in these 3 colours. So the natural and the peach and the more corally colour. And then another set for somebody else in the natural, the pale blue, and the more, there's actually more of a cornflower blue in real life. It's going a bit royal on the camera. So I thought they'd be quite nice, and if you put them together with a nice soap, a really nice you know, natural, like handmade soap, like artisan soap or something like that, I thought it would make a really nice little gift at Christmas time. So I'm really looking forward to trying the pattern out, because I've knit a few of Jules's patterns and she does put an awful lot of work into them, and she normally puts tutorials in if you're not sure, you know, if there's something a little bit different in them, and she puts an awful lot of effort into her patterns. So I'm looking forward to trying those out. And I did inevitably, as soon as Milo arrived, start looking at patterns on Ravelry for dog sweaters. And there is actually a pattern called the Mini Dachshund sweater, because he is a miniature dachshund. And there is a pattern for that. So I think he might be a little bit too small at the moment, but I'm sure once he's grown, and he will need a little sweater for going out for walkies. So I will be knitting a little sweater for him for Christmas too. which I'm really super excited about. Okay, so that's the gift knitting plans. I've got some plans for my own knitting as well, sort of upcoming projects that I'd like to knit, and I'm going to share a couple of those with you now. Now this is a pattern that I was stalking on Instagram. It's a pattern by, now I might get this name, the pronunciation wrong, Beta Jezek, and she's Hedgehog Fibres. She is Hedgehog Fibres dyer and designer. And it's this gorgeous cardigan. I think it's knit from the top down. It's a raglan sleeve, but then the sleeve goes out almost into sort of a bell sleeve, or I think they call it a bishop sleeve. And it's knit with fingering weight yarn held double, and it's done in a fade. And I think you achieve that by holding two of the same colour at the beginning, then you take out one of the strands and replace it with the next colour, and so on and so forth. So you sort of mull the yarns together to create the gradient or fade. So I thought, well, I don't really want to be buying a whole new lot of yarn for this. I've got quite a lot of yarn I need to use up. So I had a little think, and last year when I went to Brighton, I bought some Olan sock weight yarn at Yak, and I bought a sweater quantity of this colourway, which is called Gunpowder, and it was going to be a Zweig by Caitlin Hunter. This was going to be the main body colour, and this was going to be for the yoke, and this one is called, what's it called? Slow Motion. So those were going to be the yarns for that. So I then also remembered this beautiful skein that I bought from Mr. B's, which is called Tutu, on their Hiddleston base, and thought these are a really good combination of yarns. So the plan is to do the main part of the sweater of the Le Pouf cardigan in this Gunpowder colourway, and then to marlin the Tutu, and then end up with the Slow Motion on the sleeves. So the whole of the body will be just the Gunpowder colourway, and then I'll just have the sleeves slightly different. I thought that would make a really, really nice cardi. So that's something that I'm itching to get started on, but I do have to get one of those other sweaters off the needles first. And the other thing I'm planning on doing, and this is part of me wanting to slow down a little bit with my knitting, because I feel like and I don't know why I do it, I feel like I'm racing through projects, almost tripping over myself to get to the next one. I don't know if it's because I want to have more content and more things to show you guys on the podcast, or if it's just because I'm distracted by the next shiny thing. It's probably a combination of all these things, or if it's because I like buying yarn and I like knitting. I can't really pinpoint exactly what it is, but I do find that I'm constantly trying to get one project finished to get onto the next, and I think I should try and slow down a little bit. And I also want to challenge myself a little bit more in the things that I'm knitting, so that if they are more challenging, they therefore take longer, and also so that they're not just cookie cutters of things I've done before, but just slightly different yarns or slightly different. I don't know if I'm putting across really what I'm trying to say, but I just feel like I could do well to challenge myself a little bit more. So I'm going to set myself up for a really big challenge now. I really enjoy colour work a lot. And without making this a really long-winded story, when I was at the country house retreat last time, we always have a like a swap table. You can bring things that you no longer want or need, pop them on a table, and people can take from that table, you know, bring something, take something. That's how it works, and anything left goes to some charity knitters that are local to the venue. So somebody, I don't know who it was, but if you're watching and you left this, thank you, because I love it. Somebody left this Rowan magazine, and this is quite an old one, I believe. This is Rowan magazine number 48. And the images and patterns in this magazine are absolutely stunning, in my opinion. And I spent a lot of time looking through it and just oohing and ahhing over all the patterns. And then when I was thinking about what I would like to do as more of a challenge, I realised that it was in this book all along. So this is what I'm going to be knitting next. Now, I don't have the figure of this gorgeous lady here, so I won't be knitting a sweater dress, but I will be knitting it as a normal sort of sweater size length, so it won't be quite as much knitting, but I think it's still going to be pretty challenging. But everything about this just speaks to me. The colour work, the actual colours themselves, the pattern, absolutely everything about it. Now I can put it a little bit closer so you can see. And this pattern is actually on Ravelry as well. It's called Lydia, and it's designed by Kay Fassett, and it's knit in Rowan felted tweed DK. There's a scarf version as well, which is here, which is in slightly different colours, essentially the same, but some of the colours are switched out a little bit differently. The chart for this project in the back of this book is tiny. It is so tiny that I would really struggle, even with my new glasses, to read it. So I didn't want to purchase the pattern again on Ravelry because I've got the magazine here with the pattern in. So I contacted Rowan and explained to them and asked if they could perhaps give me a download code to get the pattern from Ravelry so that I could have it on my iPad with, put the chart on my iPad and enlarge it. But they actually sent me a PDF of the chart, just the chart, so that I could enlarge it and make life a lot easier. So that was really helpful of them. And I don't know when I'm going to start it, but I'll show you. I've been quite busy and enjoying myself in the preparation for this project, because it's certainly not going to be something that I'm wearing this winter. What I did first of all, I decided that I would make a really handy reference for the chart that was even bigger, that I could just sort of have in my project bag with me. So I picked this book up on Amazon, and this is just it's just grid paper. So I used some of this, and obviously it's a huge great book full of it. It will last me sort of for my whole lifetime and probably be left to somebody in my will. And I just did a quick colour reference chart. I won't show you the chart too much because it is obviously paid for, but it's on the reverse of this, and I just coloured it all in coloured pencils that matched as closely as I could to the yarns I'm going to be using, and then I laminated it so I can use washi tape on to move up and down the chart once I'm started. And then I made one of these things like you get with embroidery. I actually had a really nice afternoon sort of faffing around with this. So I just took some card, I printed out all the names and numbers of the yarns that I'm using, and then I transposed the symbols that are on the chart for each colour and the corresponding coloured pencil that I'd used on my little chart here. And then I put punched holes and put little samples of the colours, so that once I'm working on the project, I've got a really handy reference for the colours. And a couple of them, because the magazine is really old, the yarn is still available, but some of the colours had been discontinued. So on the ones where I've had to replace, I've just put on the back what they were replacing, so that if I have to buy, I've started out just buying one ball of each of these yarns, and will buy more if I need them, because it's a pretty even spread of the colours throughout the whole sweater, and there are 11 colours here in total, so there's quite a lot of yarn, and I'm hoping it might work out that I don't need any more, but if I do, I'll just get them as I need them. So I've got a really good reference here. So I'll show you the yarn which I've got here. Again, it was the wonderful Wool Warehouse. They had everything I needed in stock. I'm just gonna, I will run through them quickly and show you because they are really gorgeous yarns. So it's Rowan Felted Tweed. So this one is the, I won't run through the colourway names because we'll be here all day by the time I keep referring back. But you can see there's some subtle sort of differences between these. But they are really gorgeous and they've got little tweedy flecks in them. That's the green. I love that green. That one's called Avocado. I do remember that one. The very, very dark brown. This one, which is not dissimilar, it's a bit paler, but it's the same kind of colour family as my little cabin. And then we've got another blue. And this one, which I think is called Bilberry, which is a gorgeous purple. And finally another blue in there. So I'll pop them all back in the bag. So there's 11 skeins of DK there to be working on, and they are 50-gram skeins. And how much is on each one? Does it? Just trying to find it on the thing where it says. Oh, it's 175 meters. So it's I think that makes it probably a sort of quite a finer DK than normally. So I think normally isn't DK around about 100 grams for 225 meters. So it might be a little bit finer than some DKs, but they're all in the bag, ready to go. I will probably cake these up because I hate working with this type of wound ball of yarn. They tend to sort of all slip off and make a bit of a tangle, so I'll probably cake them up on my ball winder. But yeah, so everything's all ready to go, and I'm really looking forward to making a start on that. The only problem I have, and the only reticence I have with this project, is that it is obviously stranded colour work, and the pattern is written for flat pieces of knitting, so a front, a back and 2 sleeves, which means I would have to do stranded colour work, knit and purl on the reverse side. I can do that, but I'm not really relishing the thought of doing it. So I think what I would probably do is adapt the pattern to knit it in the round, certainly as far as the Tenure does, certainly from the bottom up, because it's knit from the bottom up, the Lydia pattern. Knit it from the bottom up to the armholes in the round, and then knit flat just for the extra bit. And probably, I don't know if I'd be able to knit the sleeves in the round and then do the shaping in the flat as well. I need to get my head round it. What I would really like to be able to do, and it would be properly part of the challenge, is if I could knit the whole of the body in the round and do steep armhole sections. But yeah, I would need to do quite a lot of research on how to do that, and yeah, that would be a real challenge, wouldn't it? But it would be fun, and it would certainly be easier to knit the whole of the body in the round and not have to do purling. So that will be featuring on future episodes, I'm sure. The only other couple of things I've got planned for future knitting is a couple of patterns by Stephen West that I've been fancying knitting for quite a while. One is the Speckle and Pop shawl, which I would really like to have a go at, and the other one is the Penguono, and I've been gathering some yarns out of my stash together for that, but that will probably be a little while away before I start either of those. Okay, so just a few more things to finish up with. One is to say that on Thursday this week, on the 10th of October, I am going to the Knitting and Stitching show at the Alexandra Palace, or Ali Pally, in London, and I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going with my mum and my auntie and my auntie's friends, so we're all going together, and I'm really, really looking forward to that. It'd be nice to have a day out. And there's a few things I've got my eye on, a few sort of more sewing related things. although I haven't actually had time to start my Christmas quilt yet, so I need to have a little think about how I'm going to plan that one in. And I am really looking forward to having a look at the Bernina sewing machines while I'm there. I've got a Janome at the moment, which is a fabulous machine, but I really am hankering after a Bernina, and I think I'm going to have a good look at them and have a careful think about, the plan, see if I can get a Bernina in the future, because I've heard nothing but brilliant things. Mum's got one, and it's a lovely, lovely machine. So, yeah, who knows? They might be doing a show special at Ali Pally, but I'm sure there'll be lots of lovely things to look at there, and I'm going to try not to buy any yarn if I can help it. Although I do know that Mrs. Moon, this Plump DK is a Mrs. Moon yarn. They're normally at Ali Pally, so I might just get one of these colours, another couple of skeins of one of these to make matching mitts for Lou to go with her hat. So I might do that, but I certainly don't need to be buying any more yarn for myself. I haven't even shown you acquisitions yet. So those, that's an event that's coming up that I'll be going to. Let's do the acquisitions now, and then I just want to mention a couple of podcasts that I've been watching recently that I thought I'd share with you, and then I need to go and make sure that Milo isn't completely running amok downstairs and running rings around Justin. So I mentioned that I went to see Kelly and Nick at Lay Family Yarn, and if you get the chance to go to their shop and dye studio, it's in a beautiful, absolutely stunningly beautiful part of the world in Shropshire, a place called Ironbridge, and the drive to the place is fantastic. You drive through the Ironbridge Gorge, which is famous for sort of like a bit of a birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. I don't know that much, I'm not a history buff, but it's absolutely stunning. And then when you get there, of course, you have the wonderful welcome from Kelly and Nick, and the shop itself is fabulous. She makes a mean cup of tea, and the yarn is just wonderful. So while I was there, I had to make some purchases, some cheeky purchases, and I was also really, really spoilt by Kelly. She had a little present waiting for me. I'd let her know that I was visiting, and she gave me these skeins of yarn. This one here is Friends Who Knit Together, which is absolutely gorgeous. Peaches and some burgundy speckles and all the soft pinks and naturals. And she gave me this, which is called Riverside Amble, and they're both superwash merino and nylon, and this is a 50-gram skein and a 20-gram mini, so absolutely perfect for socks. And do you know what? When I bought the Wondrous Dishcloth pattern from Jules, I might also have popped her new Brambleberry socks in my basket as well. And I'm thinking this will make the most beautiful pair of, I don't think they're called Brambleberry or Bramble socks, but they're on, they are on Ravelry. If you check out Jules's Ravelry page, you'll see them. And I think these will be absolutely stunning yarns to use for those socks. So Kelly gifted me those, which was amazing. Thank you, Kelly. Then I had I had a cup of tea, of course, and a chat, and maybe a biscuit. And then I had a little look around the shop, and I had to go for something from the Ironbridge collection, because the location where the shop is situated is in the Ironbridge, I think it's called, just called Ironbridge. So these are from the collection, and this is a superwash merino and nylon 100-gram and a 20-gram skein. Look at those. So gorgeous. And another one from the Ironbridge collection is this one, which is the Courtyard. Again, the dyeing that Kelly and Nick do is absolute genius. There's so many colours, so many speckles, so much depth to their colourways. And I then picked up this one, which is Cordovan, which Kelly helped me to choose to go with it in case I want to do a 2-colour project. That was beautiful. And it's a little bit rustling now. and one of these beautiful mini skein sets in the pastels as well, which Kelly popped in for me. So it was such a beautiful afternoon. Well, it wasn't, weather-wise it wasn't a beautiful afternoon, it was absolutely throwing it down with rain, but it was just such a lovely afternoon. Kelly and Nick and Megan have worked so hard to get that place up and running, and it really is a credit to them. And if you're in the area, or even if you're not, I mean, it's a long way from me. I was fortunate enough to be over on a work visit, but if you do get the chance to go, then you must make a trip to go and see the Lay Family Yarn dye studio. Talking of travels, I had to go over to Germany for work for a few days, and I was with my boss, and you know, there's not a lot of opportunity for yarn shopping when you're with your boss, unless you happen to make a last minute stop before you go to the airport. We had a little bit of time to kill, and there was a town not far from the airport, and we stopped off to get coffee and just stretch our legs a bit before we set off travelling. And I happened to stumble on a little yarn shop, so I parked my boss outside on a bench where he was checking his phone for his emails, and I knew I didn't have long because, you know, he's not going to sit there for ages while I go yarn shopping, but I did manage to grab some mohair because I thought it's always handy. I do love a bit of mohair held double with things, and I thought if I've got some extras in some scrummy colours, then they'll always come in handy. So I picked up these. They're all from Lana Grossa, which is not a brand I've come across before, but the colourways are beautiful. So there's this gorgeous sort of taupey colour and this beautiful lavendery shade. So I thought they'd be really handy, perfect to hold with a finger and weight yarn for a hat, or, well, hats is probably what I will do with them actually. Although, thinking about it, how fabulous would they be together? So will that be Jules's socks, or would it be a hat? Who knows? But they're all gorgeous, and I'm really happy to have them. And the final acquisition is this, and this is a little bit crazy. I haven't really got an aesthetic, you know. I can go quite easily from the soft and pretties, and then equally I can go a bit crazy too. And yeah, that suits me. I never really make my mind up quite how I want to be, and it's just according to your mood, isn't it, and what sort of really floats your boat at the time. This is yarn from a dyer called Kelpie Knits, and it's called My Printer Broke, this skein here, which I think is a really fun name, and this little coordinating mini, or just sort of like accompanying mini, is called Stark. And I think this would be really nice, or really fabulous actually. I've got a bigger skein of yarn in this sort of charcoaly grey. I thought if I held it with this and made a 2-colour brioche cowl or something for the winter, it would make a really stunning contrast to have a brioche in those 2 colours. So that's what I think this is going to become. Really lovely yarn. She dyes to order, I think, Kelpie Knits. She opens up her order book might be weekly or every 2 weeks, and then you order and she dyes to order. But it's absolutely fabulous. It came really quickly. It leads me nicely into just mentioning a couple of podcasts that I've been watching lately, that you may have heard of and you may not, but I just thought I'd share anyway, because I heard about Kelpie Knits from Kaz on the We So and So podcast, and I've been watching her for I've watched about 3 or 4 of her episodes now, and Kaz is up in the Highlands in Scotland, and she does some absolutely amazing colour work and sweater knits. She just is very prolific knitter. She does some gorgeous things, and well worth checking out her podcast. And she mentioned Kelpie Knits from one of the yarn shows that she went to up in Scotland, so that's why I checked out. So it's always worth checking out podcasts, because you never know what you might need from some of those lovely dyers out there. So do check out Kaz on the We So and So. The other podcast that I've been really into lately is Kate at the Last Homely House East of the Sea. And Kate, you may be aware of, Kate does a bit of everything. She does a lot of, what does she do? What doesn't she do? She does quilting and sewing. She does some knitting, some spinning, not quite so much, quite a lot of quilting, which is why I sort of got into her in the first place. She has a fantastic series on all things Liberty. She grows lots of her own vegetables. She keeps bees. She's got beautiful cats. She does cooking. She does all manner of wonderful things. And her podcast, she has just such a wonderful way with her, just like sitting with a friend and listening. So do check out Kate at the Last Homely House if you haven't already. And finally, another one, which quite a new podcaster, is Susie of Elderflower Stitches. I've been watching her, and she's been doing some vlogs as well. And she's doing some really pretty projects. She's got an Etsy shop as well. She does some lovely stitch markers, and I think she's going to be doing some hand-dyed yarn and project bags and things like that. And she's well worth a watch if you like lots of really pretty fabrics and yarns and things like that. She's got a very sort of soothing, quite a nice sort of gentle podcast to listen to. So yeah, definitely check out Kaz, Kate and Susie if you haven't already, and I think you'll enjoy them. Okay, well, I need to go and find out what the puppy is up to and get tidied up, and I hope you'll enjoy the rest of your day. And I will be back at the end of October to close off our knit along and show you what I've been up to. So take care and happy knitting. Bye.